Numbers 12 through 14, Jesus said that we will have trouble in this world, that there would be resistance. But he also said, be of good courage. In other words, be cheerfully confident in me, for I have overcome the world, and we are in him, and he is in us, if we're born again believers. After the people complained about not having any meat, now we see family jealousy creating trouble. Miriam and Aaron spoke against Moses because of his Cushite wife. This was only an excuse to protest the authority of Moses. God judged Miriam and gave her leprosy, which caused her to have to stay outside the camp for 7 days. God related that Moses was a special prophet whom he spoke face to face with. He even said Moses was very humble, more humble than any man who was on the face of the earth. Meekness is control strength, being obedient to God and doing his will. Humility is lack of self-sufficiency and relying on God. Moses graciously prayed for the Lord to forgive and heal Miriam. Israel has reached Kadesh Barnea, which borders the Promised Land. Deuteronomy reveals to us that it was Israel's idea to send spies into the land to check it out, to see if the facts supported what God had already promised. The spies found that the land was indeed a land flowing with milk and honey and impressive fruit. They also found fortified cities and a large, intimidating people. Caleb said, we should by all means go up and take possession of it, for we will surely overcome it. Joshua agreed with him, but the men who had gone up with them said, we are not able to go up against the people, for they are too strong for us. Here we have the minority report that includes what God said, and the majority report, which leaves God out of the picture. Sounds like what's going on today. There are things in this world that can be intimidating and can sway our thinking if we rely on our own wisdom and strength. Bottom line is, what does God say? And do I live my life and make my decisions according to what God says? The Israelites grumbled against Moses and Aaron, claiming they had brought them here to die in the wilderness and were ready to stone them. They said it would be better to go back to Egypt. This represents people panicking when the walk of faith gets challenging and they return to the old life of sin. God was ready to destroy the Israelites, and yet Moses interceded for them. What a picture of our own bankruptcy before God and our awesome Jesus stepping in and interceding for us. The 10 spies who brought the bad report died by a plague. God promised that the current generation, those 20 years and older, would not enter the promised land because of their unbelief. They would wander in the wilderness for 40 years, 1 year for each day the spies were in the land, until this generation died off. Their children, however, would enter the land along with Joshua and Caleb, who did trust God. Do you trust God? This is the work of God, to believe on the one whom he has sent. Have you trusted Christ to save you? There is no other way to enter in. You will wander in the wilderness and ultimately die. Be separated from God forever through unbelief if you don't believe God and come to Christ. Mark chapter 5, verses 21 through 43. The woman who had a hemorrhage for 12 years touched Jesus in a huge crowd, and power had gone out from him to her. Jesus knows when you are reaching out to him in faith and will honor it. Go ahead and reach out to him right now with whatever it is. He is big enough to know it and handle it in your life, my life, and everyone's life all at the same time. Aren't you glad he's that big and can handle it all at the same time? Jesus healed the woman and told her that her faith had made her well, indicating not only physical healing, but being made whole by coming in faith to the Savior for salvation. Jesus moved forward from here to the synagogue official's home. This Jairus had come to Jesus asking him to heal his 12-year-old daughter who was dying. A messenger came and said, don't bother, she's already dead. Jesus said, do not be afraid any longer, only believe. I have all authority over sickness, sin, and even death. Don't allow circumstances to dictate fear to you. Allow me to dictate hope in your life. Jairus had just watched Jesus heal the woman, and surely this encouraged him. Is this passage encouraging you? When Jesus arrived, the mourners laughed at him when he said the little girl was only asleep. Sleep is temporary, and when Jesus is brought into the situation, everything is temporary. The circumstances in our lives right now are temporary. The Lord will make everything right in his perfect way and his perfect timing. The day will come when we will spend eternity with a perfect God in a perfect world, in a perfect body forever. Do not be afraid any longer, only believe. Jesus took her by the hand and raised her from the dead, and immediately they were completely astounded. 12 years with a hemorrhage will wear you out. The death of a 12-year-old little girl would blow us off the map. But bring Jesus into the picture and everything changes. We do not dictate what he will do in our circumstances. Whatever he does will be perfect because he is perfect. Have you brought Jesus into your circumstances so that you don't need to be afraid any longer? Only believe.